Moo.
You all make me proud.
Violet Melodious Phantasm just resubscribed for 38 months. I forgot to read how many cows are coming your way. Suffice to say, it's a lot of cows. Moo.
Moo. Thank you for the sub, V. Appreciate it. And it just kind of ends. Alright. Is there another place I can... I suppose I can post this here. There. Alright, Adventure of the Runaway Room.
Glancing over my records of the late last century, I am faced by the events of a certain bitter winter. A murder in a carriage as it sped through dense London fog in the dead of night. Though the victim and the perpetrator were the only ones inside, there were multiple witnesses to the crime itself. However, none could have imagined at the time that such a seemingly obvious case as this would end in such a horrendous manner. My friend, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, once said of the incident,
I believe that perhaps that case was indeed the prelude.
the beginning of a long concerto that impressive Japanese student and I were to play together.
Amazing. Is this really just a railway station?
Railway station or not, I've never seen such an enormous building before.
And look at all the steam locomotives.
Steam.
This country is incredible.
I feel like I'm dreaming.
So
We're
this
gonna
is
get
the
robbed.
capital of Great Britain.
So, where to?
Oh, hello.
Climb aboard. I'll take you wherever you want to go.
In that case, the Supreme Court in Whitehall, if you wouldn't mind.
My pleasure. I suppose you're visiting students from abroad, eh?
Yes.
Thought so. Well then, I hope you enjoy your stay. And welcome to the centre of the world, Great Britain's mighty capital, London.
I remember back in high school, I once made an offhand comment that like inferred that London was in France, and like 2 theater majors just glared at me, and I'm like, I don't know that much about the fucking cross the sea, bitch. Like, fuck you. What an incredible place. Is this like right in fucking Big Ben? It's so imposing. It's almost suffocating. This place is breathtaking. Looks like a fortress. There are some stone buildings like this in Japan now, of course, but they've only been built in a few short decades since we opened our borders to the outside world. An authentic example like this has quite a different impact, wouldn't you agree? Far cry from the wood and paper our buildings are constructed from. It's certainly unfamiliar. But I think there's more to the differences than just construction materials. What is this place again? This is the Lord Chief Justice's office in the Supreme Court of Great Britain. The Lord Chief Justice. We had instructions to report here at this time. If circumstances were different, we were supposed to let the Lord Chief Justice know that we had arrived from Japan. Kazuma can't. No. So instead, we're here in a different capacity. As envoys to repeat the news of Kazuma-sama's death. Yes. And having delivered his or her message, the envoy's duty is done. So, you'd have to return to Japan. If you want to remain here in Great Britain, I have to take Kazuma's place as a law student selected for the study tour. Yes, which means you need the requisite qualifications as a lawyer, which is what I've been studying for. Here in Great Britain, it is the Lord Chief Justice who appoints lawyers. So that's the second reason why we're here, to have you officially recognized as a lawyer. It's the only way that we'll be able to remain here in London. I hope I'm up to scratch. Ah, good morning. Sorry for keeping you. Oh. I trust you aren't too exhausted after your long voyage from Japan? It seems I'm 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 47 seconds late. My apologies. Oh, no, don't mention it. We're never happier than when we're standing around with nothing much to do. How fortunate. So, introductions. I'm Mael Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of the British Empire. I feel like a little mouse under an elephant's foot. Come on, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't be a mouse. Oh, It's an honor to meet you, Lord Chief Justice Strongheart. I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo from the Empire of Japan. Well, Mr. Naruhodo. Welcome to London, the capital of our glorious British Empire. Ah, yes. Thank you. So, what are your impressions of our capital so far? How do you like London? Oh, I've been so nervous ever since I got here that I can't remember a single thing about the city. It's simply splendid, isn't it? Oh. We had a wonderful view of some London streets from the carriage on the way here from the station. Everything's so impressive and grand. I must say, I'm almost lost for words. I'm glad to hear you like it. The city boasts tramways, piped water, and gas, even cables supplying electricity. We spearhead every revolutionary new technology in the world. Every visitor to London is astounded. Oh yes, astounded is the word. Thanks for saving me there. And everyone seems so jolly and full of vigor. Yes. There's much excitement about the upcoming Great Exhibition that we'll be hosting here in London. Great Exhibition? Cultural and technological advancements from around the globe are to be exhibited here in our great city. It'll be the greatest spectacle of its kind in history. It'll make Paris's World Fair look like a toy shop. Gosh, I can hardly imagine how magnificent it's going to be. Great Britain's capital city is nothing but magnificent. London is the center of the modern world. Even if you do say so yourself. The sun will never set on our great empire. Perhaps it is fate that in these progressive times we welcome visitors from the land of the rising sun. Lord Chief Justice, I think you were expecting a student of law for this study tour, weren't you? Absolutely. Mr. Kazuma Sogi, if my memory serves. That's right. The British government has already been telegraphed a full report on the situation. I understand the young man lost his life aboard the steamship bound for our shores. It's amazing. The news reached him before we even arrived. My country naturally extends its deepest condolences to yours. Oh, thank you. And you honored this appointment specifically to inform me of the news? Yes. We are here in the capacity of envoys from Japan to report the sad news in person. They tell me you Japanese are a people of protocol and courtesy, and I see that is true. It's with some regret that I must inform you that the death of young lawyer means this study tour arrangement can no longer proceed. If you would just hear us out, Lord Strongheart. What do you have to say, madame? It's about the study tour. Mr. Naruhodo here would like to make a proposal. Would he now? Well, Mr. Naruhodo, this is it then. The moment of truth. What if we went on with it anyways? I was wondering if perhaps you would consider allowing it to go ahead. Don't misunderstand me. Britain would ideally like to see the tour go ahead, but without a lawyer from your country, there's nothing to be done. Well, in that case, what if there was someone else? Another lawyer from Japan, I mean. Is there something I don't know? Only a single lawyer was invited to Great Britain from your country, and that was Mr. Isogi. At least, that is what I've been led to understand. Well, the thing is... this isn't going well. I just can't find the right words to say to this man. Mr. Naruhodo? I could ruin things here if I'm not careful. What am I gonna say? If there's someone else here from Japan who could be described as a lawyer, it's me. I can do it. Is that so? I mean, I don't actually have any qualifications as such, but no qualifications, you say, and yet you claim to be a lawyer? I have acted as a lawyer in court before. Only once, as it happens. And I had Kazuma to help me, and I was the accused, but glossing over the details, I've been spending every spare moment on the journey here to Great Britain studying. I've learned all about British law and court proceedings while I was on board the SS Burya. The voyage from Japan is some 50 days, I believe. Not what you might call a full education. To become a qualified lawyer here in Britain, not only do you need a university degree in law, but you must also complete several years of training. I realize it's far too short of a period of time, but I can't just go back to Japan. Kazuma, Mr. Isogi's journey had only just begun. Coming here on this study tour was all he thought about. I have to carry on and do everything he planned to do. I know it must sound like I have an overly inflated opinion of myself, but I would do anything to prove that I have what it takes. Any test you care to set me. Just one chance. That's all I'm asking for. Please. 31 seconds. Sorry? Your opening statement there. It was 31 seconds long. Not too brief, not too protracted. A perfectly judge appeal, I would say. Which is a skill that would stand you in good stead as a lawyer. Oh, thanks. So, you're willing to put those words to trial, are you? Well, I'm all for entertainment. But let me ask you one thing first, sir. You say you intend to do everything Mr. Isogi planned to do. Are you firmly set on that path? Well, yes. That's my intention. I see. Am I imagining things? Or did this expression just alter a fraction there all of a sudden? Very well. You have your wish. I'll give you a chance. A test to become a specially certified lawyer. Whether you pass or fail is entirely down to you. Really? So, what form will the test take exactly? Tell me, what do you consider the role of a lawyer to be? Well, defending people, of course. Well said. So, let's have you defend someone. Huh? Your timing is imperfect, in fact. There's an apt trial about to begin later today. No advocate has been appointed for the defense as yet, so this will be welcome news. Today? Straight away? If you manage to secure a verdict of not guilty, you'll have passed my test. What could be simpler? I don't get myself into these situations. Well, could I ask what sort of trial is it, Lord Strongheart? Yes, good question. Ah, I remember. It's a murder trial. Murder? An extremely simple case, I understand. You really can't lose. It's easy to say, but I should mention, just in case, if the defendant is found guilty, he will of course be sentenced to capital punishment. Capital punishment? He'll be put to death? Here in Great Britain, murderers are sent to the gallows without exception. Presumably, you read that much in your short C-based introduction to British law. He can't possibly agree to such a test. He would be toying with a man's life. I am the Lord Chief Justice, and I've decided it's acceptable. But you can't do that, can you? There's no need to overcomplicate this. All you have to do is ensure that you don't lose. So, the defendant may live or die depending on how well I perform in court. If I lose, he'll be hanged. Mr. Naruto, you've come to meet me claiming to be a lawyer. If you want me to take you seriously, you need to prove you're willing to do a lawyer's job. And you say you intend to see through the will of your compatriot, Mr. Asogi. I would like to understand just how far you're willing to go in order to make that happen. He's testing my resolve. What's the matter? You've fallen silent. I'm sorry, but time is pressing. The trial begins shortly. I need an answer from you now. What's it to be? What do I say? Do I agree to this absurd test? I'll do it. If I have to give you a decision now, my answer is... I can't do it. I can't get the words out. 15 seconds. Decision-making needs work if you want to be a lawyer. That was too slow. So, it's as I suspected, is it? Sorry? You have noble intentions, but lack the resolve to see them through. The test is cancelled. Thank you for stopping by. Go and acquire your ticket for passage back to the East tomorrow. This conversation is over. Yes, Lord Strongheart. Thank you for offering me a chance. Mr. Naruto. I'm sorry, Miss Susato, but what could I do? It's alright. I understand. You do? It's not an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances. But resolve has absolutely nothing to do with it. What are you trying to say, madame? I think what Miss Susato means is that no matter how badly I'd like to be recognized as a lawyer and stay here in Great Britain, to risk another man's life by treating his one and only chance at a trial so trivially would be utterly unforgivable, and I feel exactly the same way. I'm sure the defendant won't see this trial as a test, as some kind of experiment. A A lawyer may fight for his clients in court day after day, but for each one of those clients, the particular day they stand in the dock may be the only chance they have to fight to prove their innocence. No, I was wrong. I'm not qualified to do that job yet. I'm sorry for wasting your precious time, Lord Chief Justice. Wait, Mr. Naruto. Oh, was there something else? It's approximately 20 minutes by carriage to the Old Bailey from here. If you leave immediately, you should still be there in time. But I just said that I was quite serious in what I told you. The defendant in this case has literally no one to advocate for him. What? At this point, he can't hope to find someone to represent him. The trial may begin without a defense, and if that happens, there's only one possible outcome. He will receive the most severe sentence the judge can pass down. But that's awful. But that is the truth. Why does it have to be like this? Please don't expect an answer to every question. The cold, hard truth of the matter is that there is only one person now with a chance to save this man from a very miserable end. And that is you. I'm really his only hope. So, what do you say now, Madame? Me? What do you mean? You said it wasn't an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances, and I agree. But in my estimation, it is purely and simply a matter of resolve. Our time is up here. I have a meeting to attend. I must leave in 2 minutes and 16 seconds. So, venture into our great city and enjoy yourselves. He's gone. The Old Bailey. He really did give me Gant vibes. If we're gonna do this, we must leave at once. I like him. Oh, I like that little mustache. Borderline racist. Oh, thank goodness we're in time. There's still 15 minutes until the trial begins. I never knew a horse-drawn carriage could go so fast. I thought my teeth were gonna rattle loose. Did you hear what I said to the driver when we climbed aboard? Get us to our destination in 5 minutes, driver, and there's a guinea in it for you. It's one of my favorite lines from the Erlock Sholmes stories, and it worked quite perfectly. I'm not sure why you were so pleased. I thought we were gonna die, and we had to pay gold for the privilege. Well, at least we arrived here before the trial started. Are we gonna I know, like... Phoenix, throughout the entirety of the series, is known for not having much money. Are we gonna be, like, okay on that front? Like, I doubt Ryu, like, comes from money, but... Anyway, I don't understand it. The court clerk said the defendant should be here. There's no sign of him at all. So this is the Old Bailey. Even this room for defendants to wait in is grand. Are you alright? I'm feeling tense, that's all. This place gives me the same sense of foreboding that I remember from the Supreme Court in Japan. Oh, it's pro bono. Fuck me. Impressive air. Almost as if the building itself is going to crush whoever is about to be sentenced. Feels like only just yesterday that I was the one about to be crushed. Yes, Whoever the man you're to defend is, I imagine he's feeling very alone at this moment. Top of the morning to you, madam. Sir. Oh, I don't like you. What do you remind me of? What are you doing following me here? Things are fair desperate, ain't they? Sorry. Would you look at those expressionless faces? From the east, are yous? He gives me fucking Willy Wonka vibes. We're from Japan, yes. Ah, Japan, is it? Right, say no more. So, how much do yous need? No, we're just here because... No need to explain, fella. I've been there myself, so I have. No place to go, nothing to eat, barely a penny to your name, and all while in a strange, faraway land. Well, actually... we haven't found a place to stay yet, no. 'Tis grand, 'tis grand. Let me start by giving you 1,000 guineas. Say nothing now. 1,000 guineas? Please, Miss Susato, you don't have to shout. But 1,000 guineas is enough to build an entire mansion in the most prestigious area of Tokyo. What? 'Tis nothing to me at all. I like to ensure I have sufficient funds to weather a rainy day, you see. I have enough wealth to buy the city of London 2 or 3 times over. Could that much rain even fall in one day? Well, even so, we couldn't possibly accept such a large sum of money. Ow! Hit me in the eye. Don't get me wrong, fella. I'm not giving you no strings attached. I'll be wanting you to do something for me. Oh? To be honest, 'tis a little embarrassing. The trial that's about to begin, you see, is for me good self here. I'll be in the dock. So now, what I want you to do is come along with me and stand there beside me. Officially, you'd be my lawyer, but that's just a little detail now. Oh, well, the thing is, don't worry about a thing. All you have to do is stand up there next to me. Nothing more. Otherwise, you see, the trial is going to start without me having any kind of representation at all. So it was true. Lord Chief Justice wasn't just making it all up. I'm terribly sorry to have to ask, but does that mean you're the defendant in this trial? Bluster and blazes! Do yous not know who I am? Me? One of London's biggest names? No, sorry. We just sort of only arrived at the city, you see. I see. I suppose it isn't altogether impossible. Well, just next to Hyde Park there in the center of London is another beautiful park. Sorry, a park? What? 'Tis called McGilded Park, full of blossoming flowers in the spring and singing birds and whatnot. I donated it to the city, so I did. An entire park in central London. A city of smiles. That's my vision for London. There's nothing Magnus McGilded wouldn't do for the city and its queer old people. That's amazing. I mean, really extraordinary. Ah, but now they've the gall to say I'm a good-for-nothing criminal. Me, Magnus McGilded. What is the matter with London police, I ask ya? Alright, don't pass out. Mr. Naruto. Perhaps now would be a good time to introduce ourselves while the gentleman catches his breath. Mr. McGilded, the thing is, we're actually here in London to study British law. We're law students on a study tour from Japan, you see. So if you don't have a lawyer for the trial yet, and you'd be happy to put yourself in our hands, we'll do our best. What was I after saying, you daft Ichi? I've given you 1,000 guineas to stand up there next to me, haven't I? Well, yes, but I wasn't really offering to just stand up there next to you. Oh, I think I see what's going on here. Sorry? I know what you're thinking. This Chancellor Raffaella claims to have more money than the Queen. But if that's true, why the blazes can't he hire the finest lawyer in all of England? Because he did it. That's the only explanation. Well, well, not at all. Although, it is a little strange, to be honest. Why you don't have a lawyer, I mean. That would be the fault of the Reaper. The Reaper? The Grim Reaper of the Bailey, Lord Barak van Zykes. He's the prosecutor. The prosecutor is the Grim Reaper? When Van Zykes stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. I think I'm getting too Scottish. And to this day, in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. So it's reached the desperate situation where there's no one willing to stand in defense against the fella at all. You could say he's a living legend of the Old Bailey. Goodness. Lord Barak van Zykes. He must be an exceptionally talented prosecutor then. Talented isn't the word you're looking for, madame. It's cursed. Cursed? What on earth? The defendant is summoned, and his counsel. Please make your way into the courtroom. The trial is about to begin. Do I have a court record yet? No, but I have my armband. His counsel. That would be me. Oh, 'tis time. Now then, fella, don't let me down. But I don't know anything about the case. You haven't told me what happened. Until you showed your face here. I made up me mind, so I had. Sorry. I decided I'd have to defend myself in there. How would that have worked? Well, then you made an appearance. A student of law, wouldn't you know? 'Tis no accident, I can assure you of that. 'Tis fate. So don't get cold feet now, please. I literally know nothing about the case, or about this man who stands accused. In fact, the only thing I do know is that I can't just turn my back on him. Mr. Naruto, the man has no one. He'll have to stand alone in that courtroom, armed with nothing to defend himself. Yes, something that Cosmo would never have allowed to happen. Counsel of the defense, what are you doing? If you're late for the start of the trial, you will lose your right to stand. I'll be right there. It's happening then. First trial in a British court. Hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because I have no idea how I'm gonna manage this. That is a good fire gif. I don't know. We are defending Magnus McGilded, who's been accused of murder. Also, you get to hear my fucking very bad accent. So this is the highest court in Great Britain. The Old Bailey. Centuries of history in this place is palpable, isn't it? So different to the Supreme Court in Japan. It feels both imposing and serene at the same time. The atmosphere almost makes words redundant. Whatever the country, determining a person's guilt or innocence is always a solemn affair. Yeah, we've been in London for 2 hours. And we have to defend this guy. May I say something? Oh, yes. What? Your eyes look ready to pop out of your head again. I know, but I just can't help it. Die, monster! You don't belong in this world. 'Tis not by my hand that I'm once again given flesh. I was called here by humans who wish to pay me tribute. Tribute? You steal men's souls and make them your slaves. Okay, I'm stopping. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are here today to determine the guilt or innocence of Mr. Magnus McGilded. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. Prosecution is fully prepared. I must be the Reaper of the Bailey. He really does look fully prepared to dispatch his poor victim to the underworld. Counsel of the defense. You appear to be Eastern. Do you speak English? Huh? Oh, yes, of course. Sorry. But he asked if the defense was ready. And I couldn't be further from ready if I tried. Those eyes please me. Nipponese. They shroud your fear, your doubt, your trepidation. They run wild, clinging to some phantom notion of courage. The quintessential look of a sacrificial lamb. Ugh. That cold shiver just ran down my spine, all the way to the tips of my toes. Now, Mr. McGilded. Yes, my lord. You stand accused of murder, a capital offense. You could be sent to the gallows if found guilty. Are you quite sure you wish to entrust your defense to this foreigner? As I've always said, my lord, 'tis a grand thing to give opportunities to the young. Even if the fellow is a student from some little island off in the Far East. Is it not the British way to ignore the dangers to yourself and give those less fortunate a fair chance? I'd like to think that acts of chivalry do the great British Empire proud. Listen to Mr. McGilded. What a fine gentleman London has in him. Hear that he donated £5,000 to the government the other day? Mother, please, may we go play in McGilded Park? Do we have a client that people like? What the fuck? This feels weird. It's definitely welcome news, and he certainly has a way with words. I'm surprised he couldn't convince anyone to defend him. Eloquently put, Mr. McGilded, and most laudable sentiments. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm sure I need hardly remind you that you 6 members of the public have been selected for your impartiality. Are you ready to proceed? Yes, my lord. I'm not doing voices for each and every one of them. If the task is to send rotters to the gallows where they belong, I'm more than ready. At the manor, his lordship always says we should dispose of rubbish promptly. Naturally, I agree. Hold on. This guy fucking reminds me of, what's his name? This guy fucking reminds me of the goddamn barber from Final Fantasy. Can I get a good fucking link? Any criminals here will soon be wishing they never set eyes on me. I feel a chill. Oh, don't mind me, my dears. Let us be getting on with my knitting. Must finish these mitts for my grandson. Ah, Mr. Naruhodo, those people are the jury. Yes, that's something we don't have in Japan yet. That's right. I've only ever read about it. Here in Great Britain, the court's final verdict depends on the opinions of these 6 jurors. Judge passes sentence according to the law, but the jurors determine guilt based on common sense. So the defendant is ultimately judged from 2 completely different points of view. How exactly do the jurors give their verdict? That I don't know, but I'm sure it will become clear as the trial progresses. Prosecutor von Zykes, my lord. It's been a number of years since we've seen you here in the courtroom. I thought you'd renounce your fame. I'm known as the Reaper of the Bailey, my lord. Infamy rather than fame, I would say. But yes, 5 years have passed since I last spread my wings in this capacity. So, what brings you back? Is there some change of circumstance which the court should be aware? I leave that to your imagination, my lord. So the Reaper has been out of action for 5 years. Why did he have to choose today of all days to make a comeback? I do like how the armband actually slouches with him. Like, it doesn't fit him properly. As you wish, sir. The court nevertheless welcomes your return. Now then, opening statements, I think. A summary of the case, if you please. Certainly, my lord. As your lordship is aware, this is a case of overwhelming simplicity. You must be the only ones in here who aren't aware. The incident took place in the late evening. 3 days passed. The hours was some minutes after 10. The victim was a maker of building bricks, known as the community as Thrice Fired Mason. Sorry? Thrice? He was a very accomplished craftsman. The bricks he fired were said to be almost indestructible. The victim's corpse was discovered in an omnibus in service on the streets of London at the time. A dagger that had been thrust into the victim's abdomen is believed to be the ultimate cause of death. Yeah, no, we didn't even know the client before we took the case. This is our one chance to become a lawyer, and if we fail, we're leaving. Like, we're getting sent back to Japan. Here's the autopsy report from the investigating medical officer at Scotland Yard. Thank you, counsel. So that into the photograph as evidence. Yeah, we just know his name, and that he has, like, some sort of reputation. And one further item of evidence. The prosecution wishes to submit these as well. And these are... Good lord, is that blood, counsel? Yes, my lord. Seized by a policeman who arrived at the scene. These gore-soaked gloves were taken from the hands of the accused when he was arrested. What? Mr. McGildig's gloves had blood on them? Feels weird that he wears gloves with rings like that, but... Yes, so accept these into evidence as well. Also, hi, Millie. I don't think I actually said hello. How did I get into this? Let's take a look. It's definitely blood, isn't it? Not the most pleasant sight to be confronted with on our first day in London. Well, nothing will come of grumbling now. No, by the way, is Mr. McGildig right-handed? Yes, I believe so. He was toying with a coin in his right hand a little earlier. Pity. If only he'd been left-handed. I think the blood on either glove would be fairly incriminating, really. Not seeing anything in them. Nor am I seeing any blemishes of this sort. Let's see. It's missing a button. Let's see. So is Mason his first name or last name? I'm backed into a corner before I've even started. Continuing. According to the driver of the omnibus, There were only 2 passengers traveling inside his vehicle at the time. Only 2? Obviously, one of those passengers was the deceased brickmaker, Mr. Mason. The other was the accused, Magnus McGilded. Well, it's rather damning circumstances, to say the least. Defendant, what say you? Well, of course, I have no recollection of such a thing. Mr. McGilded! To be sure, I rode the omnibus that evening, but whenever I'm in a carriage, I'm taken with a fierce tiredness, and I always succumb to it. Are you claiming to have been asleep? Tis the motion of the carriage, my lord. Lilton so it is, when I opened my eyes again. 'Twas a desperate sight before me, the body of a man I'd never laid eyes on before in me life. Now I ask yous, what good-hearted soul wouldn't rush to help a fella bleeding from his stomach? I wasn't about to start worrying about me gloves now, was I? I reached out to give the man a hand. So the blood got onto the gloves then, after the man had been killed. Unfortunately, that statement of the driver's is only the beginning. What? That's not all of it? There were multiple witnesses to the precise moment at which the brickmaker was fatally stabbed. Order! 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 When the killing took place, only the victim and the accused were inside the carriage, and there were witnesses to the crime. This is not just a case of compelling evidence. It's the nail in the coffin for the accused. Thank you, counsel. I think we'll hear testimony from these witnesses first of all. Your wish is my command. Bailiff, bring the witnesses in at once. Oh God. That guy has a rat in his hat. I'm calling it now. That guy is getting rat tattooed. He did it. Witnesses, your name and occupations. Beppo. My name is what everyone calls me, but no, I can't do the Irish. Everyone calls no. Beppo. Strong for Beppo. I drive an omnibus in the East End. Bruce Fairplay, I'm a banker in the city. I'm Marcel Towing, owner of restaurant Rat Tat Towing. My name's First. Lady First. I, make hats for gents. No, you have a rat making hats for gents. 3 days ago, at a short time after 10 o'clock in the evening, I'm not going to do accents. All of you present in the stand were in an omnibus and witness to the aforementioned incident. He's hiding estrogen. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Quite right. Yes, sir. That's right, sir. Very well, then. Let's proceed to your formal testimonies. Each of you will tell the court precisely what you saw. Okay, it's been a bit since we've done an actual, cross-examination. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had a few customers. I remember it well. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Then out of the blues, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. Couldn't help it. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus. And then I saw it too. Okay. I wish I had a, visual representation of, what they were driving in was. Were they all in the same room? Or, were all in the same carriage? Or were they just, passing by. Exactly, my lord. These men witnessed the incident in the omnibus with their own eyes. I'd like to ask a question, if I may. Yes, counsel? Well, this testimony makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Why not? What? Well, the incident took place inside a moving carriage, didn't it? As has been clearly stated from the outset, yes. Well, in that case, how could those two witnesses possibly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have seen the inside of the moving carriage. How quaint. I read that civilization in the Eastern Island nations was a good century behind our own. But here in London yourself, are you really so ignorant about our omnibuses? Huh? I've been here for 2 hours. Tell me, my Nipponese friend. Have you even traveled in an omnibus? Well, no. We, only arrived in London this morning. No matter. I've arranged for us all to see for ourselves. The actual scene of the crime, that is. What? What do you mean? The carriage is designed to be moved, after all. Presumably you understand that much? Yes. The omnibus in which the bloody crime took place is here today, in this very building. The entire carriage? Bailiff. Bring forth the stricken omnibus. Man. That's an omnibus. It's the omnibus. Can't believe they could bring something so enormous in here. Great Britain's courtrooms are amazing. As you can see, the omnibus is pulled by 2 horses and can carry up to 8 passengers. Okay, there were people on top. 4 passengers seated inside the enclosed cabin, and another 4 on the rooftop above. Each Londoner knows that the best views of the city's architecture and sights are to be had from the top of an omnibus. And that I should point out to our foreign guests. There is a skylight in the roof, allowing a view of the interior from the seats above. Do you not have ladies sit on the 2nd story? A skylight. The penny drops at last, I see. These 2 gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats on the omnibus when the murder took place. That's how they came to witness the grim incident. Through the skylight. That makes perfect sense. Oh, counsel? This is a first. In all my years behind the bench, I've never experienced a crime scene itself being brought into the courtroom. There are a number of important clues remaining inside the carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence. That is the prosecution's wish. Very well, I see no reason why not. I mean, I can see them doing that. 8-seaters. I can't believe it. The entire crime scene entered as evidence? Yes, Great Britain is simply extraordinary. I could help myself a lot by giving it that omnibus a thorough examination, seeing as it's here. Alright. Let's... Okay. What is that doing here? Is that a motherfucking Ace Attorney reference? Well, let's open the door and go inside, shall we? Ugh, the scene of a murder. It's horrible. Oh, this is weird. This is weird. Okay. Ah, that's a poster for the great exhibition that's due to start 6 months from now. There's a lot of focus being drawn to the Crystal Tower, the centerpiece of the whole exposition. Ooh, the Crystal Tower. It's under construction already, I believe. People all over London must be fizzing with excitement at the prospect of such a grand event. Ah, that doesn't... Okay, yeah, I guess it does say Crystal Tower. Let's see... Seat is handled, it seems. This looks like all sorts of equipment that might be needed to keep the omnibus running. Feeding tubs, tools to repair the wheels, blankets, horseshoeing tools. So it's a storage compartment for the coachman to keep his things, it seems. Doesn't seem to be any space for passengers to stow their luggage, that's for sure. Well, I don't imagine it would have been very convenient for that purpose anyways. This one doesn't have a drawer. Why did... It's my fucking... That's blood that's soaked into the seat. Victims, obviously. That seat would be clearly visible from the roof deck. Would you really stab someone in full view of the other passengers like that, I wonder? Well, it was after dark. There was a lamp in here, so perhaps the culprit couldn't see anything outside through the skylight. Whichever way you look at it, doesn't seem like it was planned attack. It's quite a large skylight, isn't it? Yes, quite large enough to afford a good view into the cabin from the roof deck. There doesn't appear to be a handle or catch of any description. Suppose it can't be opened from the inside of the cabin, at least. Let's see... Let's see. You can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin, so I'm sure the witnesses would have been able to see quite clearly. It's not good for us. But I do see that there is a latch. Can I investigate that? Nope. So this is the roof deck of the omnibus. Oh, you must have a wonderful view of London streets from up here. These people sit all the way up here on bitter winter nights with cold air rushing past them. They have to pay money to do so? Can't imagine how cold it must feel. That just made me think of something horrible. Can you imagine being dragged around the city in the freezing cold as punishment? Perhaps that is the real place you pay to stay out late. I assume that's just going to point us at the skylight again. Nope. Okay. Well, then this is where the man sits. Not seeing anything else really worth examining. Pray don't expect this Nipponese stray to understand the intricacies of the British court's cross-examination rights. Alright. My first cross-examination in the British court. Focus, Ryunosuke. Focus. Nice bus in the evening, so I had a few customers. I remember it well. Alright, well, let's...
Hold it!
Yes, I think it was sometime after 10, wasn't it? Oh, yes, sir. That's right, sir. Yes. So cold it was. Freezing, in fact. And you had 4 passengers on board at the time, is that correct? Yes, that is right, sir. Not all traveling the same part of the bus, sir, though, no.
Excuse me.
Fucking... Sorry. Do you have some affliction? Not really. He's not really willing to say anything, it seems. Okay. I don't think I got the full thing from that. Ooh, these controls are gonna be weird. God fucking...
Hold it!
And no other passengers when the incident took place? Not one alighted, for example? Quite right, sir. No other passengers like that. No, none. So nobody fled the scene of the crime, then. I have to say, the boss insists on it running, it does. Every evening, that last bus of the day. But I do wonder if sometimes it's altogether worthwhile. Yes, sorry to say. What do you mean by that? Well, what it being so cold and everything, and only making 20 pence on the run, you see. Yes, I spend that much at the pub on the way home, just trying to warm up again. Okay, so I don't need to be constantly waving along.
Hold it!
And you saw them even through the skylight in the roof of the carriage? That's right. When you sit up on the top deck, the window's right there at your feet. Why is there a... Okay. 2 of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. But there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that it was Mr. McGilded. How can you be so sure? Well, how can I put it politely? McGilded is a gentleman of rather small stature. I couldn't have mistaken him for anyone else. Let's not forget that when the vehicle came to a halt, the only people inside the enclosed cabin were the deceased Mr. Mason and Mr. McGilded. There's no room for doubt here. I really wish there was. Then out of the blue, the accused just reach over and plunge a knife right into his guts.
Hold it!
You actually saw the exact moment it happened? Didn't I already testify to that? Or are fair dinkum hard work and city bankers not considered trustworthy these days? Oh, no, I didn't mean that. This is no good. I really got his back up. Perhaps you could just tell us what you saw in a little more detail, if that's... My lord. Juror number 3? What's the meaning of this? My mind is made up, my lord. Completely and utterly made up. Made up about what? I don't like the stinking rich. Never have. They're always up to something or other that they shouldn't be. Every one of them. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, he can't fool me. There's no point wasting time listening to any more of this. That's my opinion on the matter, anyway. That's precisely what I was about to say. As the foreman of the jury, it's my duty to set a good example to my fellow jurors. What the? What's happening? Let me see. Ah yes, it seems that's how the members of a jury give their verdicts. With fire? Apparently, yes. White for innocent and black for guilty. As the 6 members of the jury make up their minds about the case, one by one, they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice, as we saw a moment ago. So if those enormous scales fall completely to the black side, does that mean... Let's do our very best to make sure it doesn't happen. This is the nightmare. That's right, you stabbed him. You stabbed him, you say. And you were sitting up on the roof deck, were you? Yes, that's right, sir. I was up on the roof seats. I remember seeing the little gent sitting next to the fellow when that was stabbed. I've been thinking about a new hat design, you see, so I was just gazing absent-mindedly around. But then, I happened to look down through the skylight. It was sticking right out from his belly. That huge, great knife. A grim sight indeed. Jury looked like they're even more convinced my client did it than they were before. Appears to have made everyone even more dubious. If only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions. Mr. First. Yes, sir? Is this the knife you saw? Oh, good grief. Yes, that's it. The very one, sir. Is that? Yes, counsel. This is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly like a stake through the heart. It is a blade of considerable size, counsel. It is, and furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial. The letter M, which seems oddly familiar. Ah, please no. M. For Magnus, perhaps? Or McGilded, possibly. What about Mason? It seems this particular big name in London made a magnificent mistake.
Objection!
But there are M's everywhere. Like, yes. Like in Mason.
Objection!
The blade is far too extravagant for a poor brickmaker to have owned. No, this weapon of murder almost certainly belongs to the accused. Not conclusive, but certainly compelling. My lord, if you'll forgive the interruption. Ah, juror number 2. Go on. Mr. McGilded is a pillar of society and a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct. However, those of us in service know we must accept hard truths. Wait, what are you about to do? Dispose of the rubbish. I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and grime. I have painstakingly typed every word uttered here today and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I am now in position to draw the only logical conclusion. It's 4 out of 6. Every time I press these witnesses for more information, just make the situation worse. I need more than anything is more information. We're still very much in the dark. Alright. Keep trying. I'm assuming... Well, they said that they can change their testimony at any time. Wait, what... My thing has got fucking drift. Are you alright, Mr. Naruto? Let's see. I just don't really like blades. Those don't seem like words for the man with a large katana slung from his waist. It's not a blade, it's Kazuma's soul. Anyway, there's no sense in delaying it. Let's see what the blade looks like. Wagnus Brendan Wee Wooligan. Look at this M. If you turn it upside down, it becomes a W. This could change everything. Yes, this is one of those, you know, turnabout cases. I'm sure of it. I'm afraid I don't know at all. What I am sure of is that this is an M. Oh, well, that idea was quickly quashed. Looks a lot like blood. It surely is blood. The victims. An Englishman's blood looks a lot like Japanese man's blood. Did you think it wouldn't? Sorry, it's just that we've only just arrived here in Great Britain. Finding it all a little hard to adjust. Okay. As soon as I hear... I didn't press that. I'd like to be pessimistic, but we do seem to be in a rather difficult situation. Before we jump to conclusion, our first task must be to gather information. Yeah. Alright, let's listen to the last one actually this time. What exactly did you see? Well, sir, that would be the passenger, sir. Yes, collapsed on the floor he was. And by the passenger, obviously, you must mean the victim, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. Yes, and the other passenger that had the knife in his hand, like this. By the other passenger, obviously you're referring to the accused Mr. Magnus McGilded. And then he plunged it down like this, stabbing into the other passenger in the belly. What? My lord, I wish to speak. No, you fucking don't. Shut up, bitch. Do I take that you too? As the master of London Guild of Coachmen, the idea of murder being committed in one of the city's carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. Wouldn't it be right to make a decision before hearing all the facts, though? I said to myself. But I've heard enough now. The horse has bolted, as they say. No. Please, just keep an open mind a little longer. Gee up now, Silver Blaze. The finish is in sight. Beppo is a long... I forgot his name's fucking Beppo! Oh, thank you, sir. You're too kind, sir. Which now means that 5 jurors agreed to condemn this man. All that's left is Granny Sparkles. Madam Juror number 6. Yes, dear? What can I do for you? You have heard the testimonies of the witnesses in the stand. Oh yes, I certainly have. Still got my hearing, you know. Then, pray tell, why are you yet to pronounce your leaning? Well, dear, the thing is, I'm a creature of habit, me. I always go to the park around this time of day, and sit on a nice bench and get on with my knitting. There's a lovely little park just near where I live. McGilded Park, it's called. Gentleman donated it to the city, you know, to put a smile on Londoners' faces, he said. I can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life. He was always doing wonderful things for the city. That's right. A man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely. Mother, may we go to the McGilded Public Library later and borrow some more books? How many Londoners live with their heads in the clouds? Do you people not know what kind of man Magnus McGilded really is? What kind of man is he? The philanthropist, Magnus McGilded, has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did that wealth come from? Your client is a Shylock, sir, and one with the very darkest of souls. What? Stone the Crows! McGilded lends money at exorbitant rates of interest, so his victims have no hope of ever repaying him. When they default, he takes possession of everything they own. He is a vulture that preys on the weak. I've never heard any mention of that before. Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, madam. So has this thought not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its entirety not have a carriage of his own? What possible reason could this man have had to make use of a public omnibus service? You're not saying that. The victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing to his name save considerable financial liability. It will come as no surprise that his creditor was the accused, Magnus McGilded. But let it also be known that the very day Mr. Mason was killed was the final repayment day for his debts. Good gracious! The brickmaker was destitute. He had lost his house. He had not a single shilling in which to pay his debts. And in the end, this pitiful soul had the very last thing he owed taken from him. His life. By the merciless philanthropist pretender, Magnus McGilded. If I might add something briefly. You claim that the victim had been lent money by Mr. McGilded, but where is the evidence to support your claim? Pray, forgive the discourtesy of fulfilling my hallowed chalice in court of law. Haha, there it is! Lord von Zeich's hallowed chalice! How could this be considered acceptable? But I find myself in unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage, but I didn't expect to experience it myself. Ah! As judicial assistant to defense, I am simply doing my job. What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which details all the monies loaned by the accused. You'll find the victim's name clearly recorded inside. Oh. Allow me to present the ledger as evidence. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice in a toast to the enigmatic East at the same time. I'll gladly accept this new evidence. Ah yes, 20 guineas. The victim owed a considerable sum. And the accused made quite certain he had ample recompense. Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes. Regrettably, madam, this is the modus operandi of the accused. Let's take a look at that. I can't read any of this. Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, not everyone in this country is well off. Goodness. What is it? Look at this! Do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay. That's one of the, witnesses. Why is his name in here? He borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And where's it? Guineas. And look at the repayment day is fast approaching. It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course. But this could be very useful information. We got something on the other page? Alright. Okay, so that's the main thing we're getting from here. And it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel. Still, maybe it's all for the best. Wait a minute. Let's think about this a little more before. I don't stand for nonsense. That was it. Last juror's decision. But doesn't the judge also have to rule? And all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty. Court proceedings are suspended. The presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. That's what it says here. Oh! There's a footnote, though. A footnote? However, the defense... All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement in this case. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision. According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial by delivering my final verdict. I trust there are no objections. God, Ryu, this is only your second trial. You're already doing, like, the Broken Phoenix thing. Miss Susato, just tell me one thing. Oh, yes? You're in the middle of saying something before. A footnote in your Encyclopedia of British Law. What did it say next? Oh, yes, of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty... Then the footnote says, however, the defense has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point. Summation examination?
Objection!
A summation examination? From which century has that tome you have there been resurrected? Ah. Judging from the binding, I would say that book's at least 50 years old. Any modern text on British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, long forgotten, and certainly no longer practiced. So you're out of luck. Oh. What even is it? This so-called summation examination. Oh, one moment, and I'll read about it. You would demand the right to a procedure before you even understand what it entails? Typical Nipponese. Alright, I think I understand. It seems that under this procedure we'd be able to appeal to the members of the jury. To do what? Appeal to them to change their leaning and reverse their decisions. And it says here that if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed. In times gone by, barristers would use summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision. But that procedure became something of formality with no practical benefit, really. So it rather fell out of use. I wonder why. Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try in this day and age. Still, I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that, although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't yet extinct. What do you think? The defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord. London is the capital city of the most powerful nation on earth. We have a duty to the world to exemplify the very highest standards of judicial procedure. Summation examinations are an embarrassment that should remain buried. But if it's our right, it's our right. I believe it could prove vital in this trial. Defense's petition is perfectly valid. The court will proceed with a summation examination. This is madness. Foreman, are you and the remainder of the jury ready? Well, I'm not, there's no mention of this in the letter I received, you see, so. All members of the jury will be asked to explain on what grounds they have reached their decision. You must all justify your decision and explain why you believe the defendant to be guilty. You're rather putting us on the spot. This is most irregular. No mention was made of this before. I don't really hold with all this justifying lark. It seems to have thrown the jurors off. Seems none of them has experienced this before. Alright then, summation examination. Defense procedure no practicing lawyer has attempted for years, is it? Well, just maybe. Might be the opportunity we've been looking for. Turn this thing around. So be it then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court hereby calls upon you to state the grounds on which you find the defendant, Magnus McGilted, guilty of this most serious crime. I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick, because I also need a little vocal break. I'm usually planning on doing these streams for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. If you know of a good, like, stopping point, like, you don't have to tell me, but, like, just keep that in mind. I will be right back. I didn't die, but my voice feels like it is. There's no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him. I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence. Stuck the chap right next to him, just like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen. We can trust the guild. Fairest is our motto. We haven't raised prices above 4 pence. Scoundrel stabbing that poor man on the floor. It beggars belief. Okay. I'm starting to wish I hadn't pushed for this now. Some of the jurors don't seem to have wonderfully formed arguments, though, do they? Now, let's see what we can do. We need to get these 6 people to change their minds. And use some very persuasive language. Just a moment, Mr. Naruto. I thought I was going to have to thaw their icy minds with some heartwarming rhetoric about the defendant. Unfortunately, once the jurors have decided the defendant is guilty, they're unlikely to heed anything the defense says. But then, they reach their conclusions by their own reasoning, you see. Your pleas will sound like excuses. In fact, it could recoil on you. The more you try to persuade them, the more entrenched they may become. What on earth am I supposed to do? Oh dear. I'm just citing what I've read about British law, Mr. Naruto. Right. I'm sorry. Do you have any idea how to make this work, then? Well, from what I can understand, the key to this procedure is using the jurors' own words to make your own arguments. What do you mean? Well, 6 members of the jury are randomly selected members of the public. They appear to present a united front, but the truth is, they're complete strangers who just happen to find themselves here in the courtroom together. That's the way to break them down, you mean? Yes, exactly. Well, I could already see there's two contracting jurors. Contrast the statements and pit the corresponding jurors against each other. So it's contradictions in what 2 or more jurors say that we're looking for. This is similar to a regular cross-examination. Yes, I suppose you're right. Find contradictions in their statements and pit the jurors against one another. Alright. I have to pull this off. Yes, my lord. See, she says it was 4 passengers, fares totaling 20 pence. That would mean that it's 5 pence each. This guy says it's been 4 pence for years.
Objection!
The 2 statements clearly contradict each other. They do? Explain yourself, counsel. Me? Oh dear, what have I said? I swear on Silver Blaze's maiden name, I haven't the first idea what you're talking about. According to the group testimony we've heard so far, there were 4 passengers on the omnibus on the night in question. And according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 20 pence in fares. Quite right. I have those precise details neatly typed here in front of me. I like you, juror number 4. And juror number 5 also told us the following. The fare for the omnibus is always 4 pence. That it is a fair and convenient single price. Just the way London's carriages should be operated. But that doesn't add up at all. In fact, it leaves a glaring discrepancy in the facts. Why, man, why? 4 passengers paying 4 pence each. If you do the multiplication, it would be 16 pence. As I said, it doesn't add up. The figures are different. By 4 pence, in fact. Or precisely, 1 person's fare. 1 person's fare. I love that he leans on the sword. Yes, in other words, on the omnibus that night, it's distinctly possible. There was another passenger we heard nothing about. God, I love these angles. This can't be right. The coachmen of the guild are good, honest men, one and all. Trustworthiness is our watchword. The figures your coachman claims are most certainly do not add up. Your watchword, good sir, is a fallacy. I beg your pardon? Mr. Guildmaster, I think you ought to consider that if this trial were to end now, the news will surely spread all over London. The news that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact he lets nefarious characters ride his omnibus. How do I make it so this invisible trial doesn't end then, Well, according to my book here, you simply launch a ball of fire into the innocent side in the set of scales. Now hold your horses here, coachman. We're all in agreement. Why do you have to go and... Wait till I get my hands on you, Beppo! Ugh, this is all very irritating. Begging your pardon, sir. I'm gonna do the same. For the love of Mike! Not you as well. A penny can be the difference between a smile and a tear, after all. So, the maid says that... Beppo was paid 20 pence for all the guys on board, and the head of the guild was like, yeah, it's 4 pence per person. And that, you're like, well, wait a minute, that means there's a 5th person. I certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exacting standards in financial matters. Oh, really? I, for one, think it's only proper we hear from the witnesses again. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruto. You did it. If we can manage to change 2 more jurors' minds, we can force the trial to continue. Wait. We already made it non-unanimous. Can we... Counsel, you have the floor again. Continue with your summation examination. That slipshod bookkeeper. What do you have to say now? Beppo, this trial has to continue so I can get the bottom of this corruption. Not guilty, I say. Alright. Stuck the chap next to him just like this. But, while you're saying that, you're saying... stabbed him on the floor.
Objection!
The 2 statements are completely contradictory. I was only knitting a jumper for my other half. What is all this claptrap? What does contradictory even mean, I ask you? Well, we've heard from more than one witness that they allegedly saw the actual moment when the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, out of curiosity, juror number 3... What? Can't you see I'm busy here? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Ha, want to test me, do you? Please don't stab juror number 4. Stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up, just like the prim banker said. That's what Mr. Ferris placed testimony. Quite true. Now then, juror number 6. Oh, is that me, is it? What can I do for you, young man? I want her to bake me cookies. How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, ma'am? Oh, well, dear, as far as I understand it, it was like this. He stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. I keep going back to the fucking Irish-Scottish accent. Now, don't move. Take a look at these 2 jurors. He stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. And he stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. They're stabbing totally different directions. Bless my stitches, what a muddle! What this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth. But why? Why the dickens would they lie? I don't know that yet, but what I do know is that if the trial ends at this point, we may never find out. We may never know the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen in all good conscience? Lies, you say? Oh, dearie me. I can't abide people telling lies. Alright, now the scales are even. The scales? I don't believe it. Wait, now hear this, my fellow jurors. I warn you, you cannot listen to this man. Look at him in his black suit. He's clearly some devious Eastern sorcerer using magic on us all. If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all of this? Answer me this, Dark Jinx. Huh? Me? What exactly is the problem? What of it if two witnesses have slightly different recollections of events? What of it? Let's say the Shylock did stab the victim as he sat next to him on the omnibus, and this young dandy saw him do it. And now let's say the victim collapsed on the floor, and then the Shylock stabbed him again. This old lady saw him do it. Well, let's say it didn't happen like that, Who are you calling a dandy, sir? Why, I should take this knife to you. Who are you calling old? Why, I should take this needle to you. Duh, they're ready to kill each other now. Could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the two witnesses see two different moments of the same crime? Okay. I mean, there is no blood found on the floor. There was no blood on the floor, and it was a result of a stabbed once in the abdomen, so that is false. Unfortunately, Mr. Foreman. What is it, Dark Jinx? Come on, out with it. What you're suggesting is impossible. It's out of the question. What? What are you talking about, man? How could you possibly say that? You do realize that I'm only doing my job. As foreman of the jury, I have a responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. So where's your evidence, man? That's what we want to see. I say two witnesses have two different moments of the crime. If you say that's out of the question, show me some proof. I gotta use the autopsy report. As you wish. What? I'll give you the proof. It's out of the question that the two witnesses saw two different moments of the same crime, as proven by this here autopsy report. The victim's autopsy report. Hey, according to what's written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen only once. It's quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely one time, which means the witnesses can't possibly have seen it happen two different times. Alright, I concede defeat. Wait, that means 4 jurors are now leaning to not guilty. We've done it. We've won. I like your little fist pump. What are you playing at, you dandy fool? Shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me. We've had a consensus. I said shut your trap. I know a liar when I see one. And if the chap ever dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take this razor-sharp blade, shave every last hair off his... Could you not do that? Could you stop? Can this guy have killed him? Please tell me he's a barber. The defense's summation examination has flipped the balance of the scales of justice. The jurors now stand at 2 for guilty and 4 for not guilty. Accordingly, there is no longer a large enough majority among the jury for me to adjudicate. The trial must continue. You're being quite quiet, Mr. Baron von Legs. Alright. Continue to substantiate the case for the prosecution, if you will. Is that your own brand? Yes? I, having savored the rich aroma of the carmine contents of this hollowed chalice, it may seem crass to crush it to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zykes? Is it cold in here, or is it just me? As your antiquated tome no doubt says, the prosecution may not speak during a summation examination. So I honored a deathly silence, and listened to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. Well, no matter. There is nothing so hard to prove as self-evident truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace the courtroom with our presence after all? So, let us proceed to the next round of battle. Bring forth the witnesses once more. Witnesses? I trust you heard the summation examination we just had to endure. Of course. You, sir, on the end. The coachman. I believe it's Beppo? Yes, sir. My lord, sir. If it transpires that in your previous testimony you were attempting to veil the presence of a fifth passenger on your omnibus, you will be found guilty of perjury. You're advised to bear that in mind, sir. Oh, Dio, oh, mio Dio. Oh. Now then, witnesses, I hereby call on you to testify before the court again. You will explain the various misgivings brought to our attention by the defense's summation examination. I want to say the top of that man's hat. I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it. But, well, I, for one, was told I only had to pay 5 pence for the bus. He filled us on the fare, he did. And then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. I tell you, I saw Mr. McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands. Oh, yes, he stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so, yes. Now he's so not so sure. The phantom fifth passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend never existed. Confusion has risen from the coachman's sly little cousinage. Beppo, explain yourself. I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster. The guild's fare is 4 pence across the board. You know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare? It's so cold, and the last run of the day is always half empty. You have been dishonest, coachman. I'm sorry. You're a disgrace, Beppo. A disgrace. And your selfless actions have brought dishonor onto the entire guild. If I may, sir, I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week. What? 4 passengers at 5 pence seats is, yes, it's 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I just can't make the result come out differently. Well, that figures. It appears that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. I've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. I see you intend to continue the parlor games. Absolutely.
Hold it!
So there were only 4 passengers on your carriage, but you didn't charge them the standard 4 pence fare. Is that right? It's impossible to make the last run of the day pay. I was so cold, all I could do was stop myself from passing out. I'm getting chipolanes just listening to you. It was terrible, so I wanted to give myself a pat on the back for keeping the bus running. Doesn't a dedicated coachman deserve an extra penny per passenger? You're digging a deeper hole for yourself here. If only there had been a fifth passenger on the omnibus that night, then we would have had another suspect. Stop! Is it something up with my fucking Xbox controller? Hold on. Oh god, is this just gonna fuck up my computer? Nope, it's not gonna do anything. Cool. Wondering if the battery's dying in it, maybe. But it's all plugged in.
Hold it!
Does that mean everyone on the board that night paid 5 pence instead of 4? Well, I paid 5 pence too, sir. I just told you that I did. A flat fare of 5 pence across the board. It's not something to be proud of. The so-called discrepancy my learned friend identified was nothing of the sort. Much like the phantom killer you so desperately needed, it's gone, dead and buried.
Hold it!
He fiddled us on the fare. Well, not exactly, sir. I mean, I didn't actually see the exact moment the gent was stabbed. We have another witness who did, however. The banker has already testified to it. But Mr. First didn't actually see the point at which the victim was killed. That may turn out to be very significant. I heard the banker gent next to me take a sharp intake of breath, you see. That's when I looked through the glass. That's when I saw that horrible blade poking out from his belly, all covered in blood. Every time I see a knife now, I can't help screaming, even when I'm eating. Tell your son, Mr. McGill, did stabbing that man. Everything I said before still stands.
Hold it!
Saw the defendant stabbing the victim who was sitting next to him. That's what I said, isn't it? It was bothering me before, this was. For just a brief moment, he hesitated before answering the question. Anyway, there was only the two of them inside the carriage, wasn't there? There's been much talk of a fifth passenger, but as yet, zero evidence. Then what are we wasting all this time for, eh? It's black and white. The man's guilty. Something about his testimony just jars with me. Why are you weighing in on here? You testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Oh yes, that's right. You said that the victim was on the floor and described the assailant holding the knife in an ice pick grip. I suppose. I might have, yes. Put the cart before the horse, maybe. What is this? Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard the scream from the seats of the roof deck. Oh, I expect that was me, sir. Then when I turned around, yes, I saw through the skylight. The gentleman was on the floor and the knife was sticking up out of his midriff. That's right, yes, and the fellow holding the handle was the famous man, yes. So in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all? I really thought I did, but when I go over it again in my head, no, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of stabbing, did I?
Excuse me.
Excuse me. Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? Now you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. You didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Eh? Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. Might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? No chance. It's a little hard to believe, certainly. Unless you spend your time peeping through a skylight on top of an omnibus, that is. Peeping? I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. And I know what I saw. I remember it clear as Ballarat Day. It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you. Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, excuse me if I was getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord. Alright, we'll have that added to his testimony. Do you think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands after the butcher stabbed the man?
Hold it!
Blood-soaked? Well, perhaps soaked is laying it on a bit thick, but... But anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. And you saw that from the roof? Through the skylight. Well, the skylight's reasonably large, so I had a pretty good view. And there was a lamp on the inside of the carriage as well, so I'm quite sure of what I saw. I feel... Yep. Nope. Feel something didn't add up. So we should give a good look through the court record. Long ago, this trial very nearly came to an end. Somehow, we've managed to keep our chances alive here. Can't waste this cross-examination. So. Remember, if you happen to spot one of the witnesses reacting a strange way, yep, we've done this.
Objection!
Blood-soaked. Hands? Well, I admit soaked might be laying it on a bit thick, but... But anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them are covered in it. God, I love that smug look. I love it. What? Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilded, on the night in question. Oh, yes, right. There certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain there, but as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove. Are you a beaver? In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent. Yeah. Oh, sorry. But, no, that can't be right. So you're the liar here, then. That's right, you were quite clear about it. You said it was both hands. I want to see the rat tucked in that man's hat. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is it really the truth?
Objection!
It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands. It was only one, but the fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused.
Objection!
No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated that he saw blood all over both hands, which means there's a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. Why? Why? I'm a city banker, for pity's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't prevaricate. He's claiming to have no reason to lie. Is that really the case? Mister, we had some evidence to explain why we have evidence for this. You want Mr. McGilded to be put away. The defense is ready to present evidence. By Jove, are you sure? Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had reason to lie. The evidence that demonstrates a motive for the witness's alleged deception of the court. Bruce Fairplay is in debt to him.
Take that!
This is a list of debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused extortion. The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. That is his first name, right? Hold on. Yep. Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? No, well, it's barely worthy of being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas. Not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? Well, what of it? Let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case? These documents state the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, all outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. They'd cease to exist. Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw, in a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant? Does that guy really not have a rat in his hat? Order, order, order! Mr. Bruce Fairplay. It's about $100. Yes, my lord. Let me ask you again. Be aware that your answer may have the most serious implications upon your future, sir. So, like, this guy basically owed him $2,000. What time of... It's like 1800s? Did you or did you not see the precise moment in time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim? Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony. Alright, now let's not make melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth in a pinch. A pinch? But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on McGilded's hands. Both of them.
Objection!
And yet, only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained. So you keep saying... I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir? Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself, as it happens. Seeing what? The blood, sir. On the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure that it was on both his hands, not just one. What? Need further testimony from all you witnesses. This time, I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Yarsh. Mr. Naruto. This is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly at last. Might finally have a chance to turn things around here. Blood up. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment of the stabbing transpired, if that matters. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them. I didn't actually see anything myself, no, not until I heard that scream. Anyway, the fact remains, it can't have been anyone else inside that carriage, or else we all would have seen. In truth of fact, not one of you was witness to the crucial moment the crime was perpetrated. There was no one else inside that carriage, and the man's hands were covered in blood. How much incriminating evidence is tantamount to anything to saying the man did it? Fuck. It's really not what testimony is about. Let's examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating with the witnesses' accounts. In other words, there is no substantial nor significant change in the facts of the case. Very well. Cross-examination, please.
Hold it!
The evidence tells us otherwise. We have the gloves the defendant was wearing on the night in question in the court record. Damn. I know what I saw, and I stand by it. The man had blood on his hands. He's defiant, even in the face of hard evidence. He's steadfastly refusing to admit that he might be mistaken about what he saw, but why? One hand or two, the salient point remains unchanged. Minutes after the grim crime, the victim's blood dripped guiltily from the accused fingers. Whether or not you saw the exact moment of the crime is a matter of fundamental importance, as you well know. For crying out loud, we all know that no one else could have possibly have done it. I was just trying to save us all some time. You have a loan of 20 guineas outstanding with the defendant, do you not? Had you hoped to release yourself from that financial burden by ensuring the defendant was found guilty? Well... It's not entirely not what I was hoping for. I just lost a little guinea or 10 when I backed the wrong horse in the Derby, that's all. I was gonna win it all back. There's a fixture this weekend that's a sure thing. A little guinea or 10? I'm a banker. No one bats an eye if I borrow a little spending money for the weekend. I think you may have revealed rather more about your character than you bargained for, sir. This witness's scruples are not on trial here. Proceed to the next witness. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both the attacker's hands with blood on them.
Hold it!
Definitely saw that too, blood on both hands. Yes, sir. I mean, I know what you're going to say. Only one of Mr. McGilda's gloves has any sign of blood on it. That's right. The thing is, as far as I remember, sir, when I looked down and saw Mr. McGilda sitting beside the other fellow, I don't believe he was wearing any gloves. He wasn't even wearing these gloves? That's correct, sir. And I saw the blood on both his bare hands quite clearly. It's true that the dark-colored stain on the dark leather wouldn't have been so easy to see. I should point out that a police officer who apprehended the accused on the night in question reported that there was no trace of blood on Mr. Mr. McGilda's gloved hands. There wasn't blood on his hands? This is puzzling indeed. Didn't actually see anything myself. No, not until I heard the scream.
Hold it!
You didn't see anything. Very sorry about what I said before. Very sorry. It was very wrong of me to make up stories and say what I saw him stab the man. Wouldn't you agree, sir? I know what you're insinuating, but I certainly wasn't making up stories. Say you saw nothing isn't right either, is it? No, sir. I saw nothing at all. Mr. Beppo, you were driving your horses. At the very least, you must have enjoyed a good view of London streets, no? Oh, please. You didn't even see that? It was so cold that night, you see. All I could do to keep from passing out, sir. As my head was fairly frozen solid. Sorry to say, sir. It seemed prudent to avoid travel on the last omnibus service of London's cold winter nights. Beepo!
Hold it!
And everything you saw of the incident was through the skylight of the roof of the omnibus. That's right. It was fiercely cold that night, but the glass wasn't frosted over. Oh yes, I remember I was shivering. It was so bitter. Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on the roof deck in the first place. Well, I don't know about this young fellow, but I couldn't enter the cabin. Oh? Why not? It was locked from the inside. I tried knocking, but no one opened the door. It was locked? That's right, and it's a public service, for pity's sake. It's not what I call fair play. Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the gent inside just gestured at me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up to the roof deck and look down longingly into the warm cabin below. I can assure you I wasn't just looking down. I was glaring, long and hard. And that's precisely why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if there was anyone else at all in that cabin, would have noticed. Unequivocal, I would say. It's hard to see from above, but it's like, if they're sitting there... I mean, they could have missed someone sitting under them. Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. You're riding this omnibus and witness the events in the cabin through the skylight in the floor of the upper deck. Is that right? That's right, yes. In that case, there is a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. Obviously, at this stage, we can't say for sure. The possibility cannot be denied that at the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger enclosed in the cabin of the omnibus. Enough hypothetical meandering, my Nipponese friend. The prosecution demands that you substantiate your claims. After all, the scene of the crime is here, in the flesh. Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's demand. Identify the area on this cross-sectional plan of the omnibus. Where exactly are you suggesting that this potential extra passenger could have been situated? One thing I also want to check to see. Okay, so that is the side. They're looking down from here. This is a side that has a compartment.
Take that!
Both rows of seats on the roof face in the direction of travel, whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other, which means the visible part of the cabin, which the passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight, as I've drawn here. That's right, my lord. As you can see, the seat opposite to the one which the victim and his attacker were sitting were obscured. The seat opposite to the one which the victim and the attacker were sitting were obscured from view. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, it's quite possible that these witnesses would have been completely unaware of it. It's quite possible that some phantom was sitting there. Your Nipponese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity. I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. I cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you're able to put a name to this mysterious passenger. Can you? I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? I don't think I have any idea. Like, these two were definitely on top. He was driving. There's no other names I can get out of the... I mean... I don't really have an idea. The only other person that could have been in there was, like, maybe Beppo? Beppo? As a proud citizen of the Japanese Empire, you will look to the sky and walk on, making sure all signs of tears are gone. Go on. This isn't just a case of going on, Miss Susato. Alright then, I'll go on. The defense would like to put forward a name. You're a fool. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitations. A toast to hard lessons not yet learnt. On that night, on the night of the murder, the person occupying the seat in the omnibus cabin that was obscured from view was... Could it have been?
Take that!
The passenger in the enclosed cabin has to have been Mr. McGilded. I'm losing my mind. Has to have been Mr. Magnus McGilded. Mr. McGilded? What are you talking about, counsel? That's the name of the defendant.
Objection!
No one was on the floor. Die, monster. If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hallowed chalice, do forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zykes. People talk of those tiny island nations to the Far East as having a learning and culture of their own, but I see they use terms ill-advisedly. What are you trying to say? Let me explain in terms that even a student of an artless backwater such as yourself might understand. When the bloody scene unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Multiple witnesses have attended to that fact. It's the very premise on which this case is built. But that premise may be wrong. What? If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way. Defendant's gloves, my lord. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claim that there was blood on both hands of the victim, or the person sitting next to the victim. Yet we know the truth to be otherwise. Only one glove bears the gory remains. The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance. Yes, their testimony remains unchanged. Exactly. They both adamantly swear that they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. It was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we have yet to identify. The victim's blood was on that passenger's hands, both of them. And who was this third party? Obviously, the true culprit. Extraordinary. Beppo, who else did you let on the fucking carriage? What exactly are you postulating? The defense's postulation is just that, nothing more than conjecture. Witnesses have clearly stated that they saw the accused. But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. Yes. The tops of the heads were obscured by the roof. I could see the rest of them, though. Yes, that's right. Both gents were most certainly hatted. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sir. What particular styles of hat did the two gentlemen wear, Mr. First? I'm afraid I don't remember. And you call yourself a hatter. The style of hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in that cabin. How can you be sure? Because if there had been, the accused, Mr. McGilded, would have undoubtedly have offered to depose the fact. But he was asleep, unless that is, you're proposing an even more preposterous explanation. Would the accused fail to even notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin which he traveled? That's right. There was another person traveling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. It's inconceivable that Mr. McGilded would have been unaware of it, unless he was hiding in the compartment. Bring the accused, Mr. McGilded, to the stand. Well, what say you, counsel? Prosecution objects. On what grounds? As a suspect, they will have already made a full statement to the police. But what if there's a reason why he's unable to speak freely? Magnus McGilded is no uneducated ruffian. If it is indeed turns out the man has been withholding information, you can be sure it will have been a most deliberate act. Counsel for the defense, what is your opinion? My lord. Yes, you need to hear what he has to say in order to find out the truth. The defense would like to call Mr. McGilded to the stand. In that case, I would like to hear the opinion of the jury. Yes, I need a little time to consider this. If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGilded has to say. Get the man out here, I say. It would be utterly illogical not to hear his testimony. Yeah, when something needs done, get it done. That's how I run things at the Guild. Hearing what the patron of my favorite little park has to say? Oh yes, that would be lovely. Yes, the jury says the man must be heard. Very well. Court will hear the defendant's testimony. Now, maybe what actually happened that night will finally become clear. Okay, I think now's when we're gonna take a break. Ryu is just very, he's by the book. He's very shy. He doesn't want to, like, speak out of turn, and he's very polite. We'll save again just in case. Oh, God. I need rude people in my life. I'm rude now. Fuck. I want fuck to be in the court record. I want that old lady to have to write fuck into the court record. But, yeah. No, this is going pretty good. I am enjoying the case. I'm curious to see what actual, like... Oh. We already know what, like, investigations look like. But now we'll actually get to put them together with the actual case. It's weird that this is the third case and it still feels like we're... Not that we're learning, but... It's weird. I like it. It's nice. Like, it's another sort of locked room mystery. I don't have the thing open again, so I can't, like... But that would mean, like, if the guy was hiding... If the true killer is hiding under the... in the compartment, how would Mr. McGilded... Like, how would he have gotten out if Mr. McGilded was on top of him? He rolled off onto the floor like baby. That's gonna be it for me tonight. I don't know. I don't know when the next stream is gonna be. But maybe Thursday, but I don't know. We'll see. But we'll see if we can finish the case next time. If we could get it to be like, 2 sessions per case, that'd be pretty neat. Although I got a feeling like as we get later on, it's going to get, longer. But, Millie, I'm sentencing you to the stocks. You're going to be put in there with your butt on display for all to look at. And you'll like it. Zippy. Stretch. But that'll be it for me tonight. I hope everyone has a nice night. And remember to drink your water, take your medicine, go to bed at a good time. And I will see you next time. Good night, everyone. Love ya. Mwah.